Look around you. The power of audiovisual media has a widespread presence. This lesson will help you be able to identify uses of audiovisual media and discuss how technology supports the communication process. The power of audiovisual media is in its support of the communication process. Think about it this way. I have a message that I feel passionately about. I can't stand it when drivers don't use their turn signals. I feel so strongly about showing these drivers the error of their ways that I am going to talk about it with anyone who will listen. If I stand on a street corner and try to present my ideas on turn signal use, not many people will give me their attention. What can I do to strengthen my message delivery? Maybe the people passing by cannot hear me? I will use a microphone to increase my audio projection. Now people will acknowledge that I am there. If I use multiple speakers and a more powerful amplifier to improve the quality of the audio, I may reach people 2 blocks away. Now I have a small crowd assembled around me. Soon the crowd gets weary and they move along. What can I do to make them stay? I'll improve the audience environment. I can create a presentation environment to allow for a large number of people to sit and still be able to comfortably see and hear me. I continue to ramble about automobile accidents caused by a driver's failure to use a turn signal. I notice that my audience is getting bored and they start to fall asleep in their chairs. Oh no! What can I do to engage them again? I will add visuals to my audio. I display images of charts and graphs showing automobile accident statistics, but my audience does not seem convinced of my argument. I roll out the video monitor and show my audience video clips of car accidents that could have been easily prevented. My audience rises, applauding loudly, all wanting to spread the news of what they had learned. The end. It may be an outrageous example, but it proves the point that audiovisual media equals communication power. The tools we use to support a message change with technology. Think of how telecommunications has evolved. Rotary telephones gave way to touch-tone dials. Telephone cords were replaced with antennas, making them portable. Now wireless communication is the hot technology where smaller is better. Just as telecommunications has transitioned into the digital age, so has audiovisual technology. For example, overhead projectors and 35mm slides are giving way to digital projectors and PowerPoint. Control wires are replaced by infrared signals. You know, the little red light on the TV remote. Today, projectors are brighter and smaller, producing clear, vivid images. Now, we all agree that the AV industry is the most exciting business there is. I'll bet you are glowing with pride that your industry touches so many people, making what they do more meaningful.